Welcome to this week in the world of wrestling.
Welcome to TWitWoW, the best wrestling podcast made for wrestling fans, by wrestling fans, on the web today. I'm John, that's my cohort and commentary Ashton, and this is our Monday Night Raw review. And you know what? I had fun with tonight's episode of Raw, especially compared to prior weeks. I felt like this was a particularly stronger episode of Monday Night Raw. Maybe WWE felt that they were being held at gunpoint, considering it was held in Chicago. But I will just say straight away, the standout star of this Raw for me was Dean Ambrose. He killed this Raw tonight. I think he made the entire program worthwhile, especially when he was, directly involved, not just thinking about him being involved in future segments. He just absolutely killed it tonight. Ashton, what'd you think of it?
Oh, absolutely. Dean Ambrose was the unquestioned star of this episode of Raw, and because of that, I'm going to concede to you, John, that you can happily have Dean Ambrose as your high spot for the night when we get to that segment, because I already have somebody else in mind.
Well, that's terrific, because, that was the route I was planning on going. He had probably one of the best nights of his career post-Shield breakup to me. He just did so well, because it was Chicago.
Yep.
And Chicago is picky. Chicago is a feeding frenzy of wrestling sharks. And Dean Ambrose was not only able to survive, but thrive. And I think in this day and age, it's hard to really
And
make
you know
that
what, though,
distinction.
dude? I have to say, I am going to kind of... How am I going to put this? I don't think that the Chicago crowd tonight is the Chicago crowd that we're used to seeing. And I don't think they've been the Chicago crowd that we all grew to love since CM Punk left. It seems like the people that showed up that were hardcore fans that made the Chicago crowd special were there because of Punk, and they just happened to bring a hardcore fandom of the product overall with them. And it's like now that Punk's not going to be there anymore, they just kind of, I'm not going to say they stopped showing up entirely, but it seems like the hardcore fans have begun to show up significantly less. Although I will say, there was quite a decent amount of heat for John Cena tonight, but it wasn't nearly as much as I thought it would be. It was a very, very neutered Chicago crowd.
Yeah, Cena is something we'll get to a bit later. But with that said, I feel like because of Chicago, because of the players involved, and not just Dean Ambrose, I felt like our undercard and some acts in particular that I'm big fans of came off looking very strong in this Raw. So enough talking about it. Let's start being about it, beginning with Heat of the Night. And I do have to say, I have one Heat of the Night tonight. It goes back to last week. I just still cannot get behind the whole John Cena involvement in the Seth Rollins Dean Ambrose angle.
Well, and John, you know what? The only reason that I didn't have a Heat of the Night regarding that is because I don't want to repeat, and I was just going to say that it carried over into tonight.
Right. And for me, I just think, especially with the things that you and I have been reading and hearing, it really started to crystallize even further for me tonight with this. This idea, at least Cena seems to project, with this whole animosity towards Rollins, that his gripe is equal to Dean Ambrose's gripe, and I don't like it at all. However, I will say this much. I think the only reason that I don't utterly loathe it, and it's not like in like a ranting kind of territory of hatred, is because consistently Dean has shown himself to stay at the forefront. He's not going to be forced into the background because it's John Cena. In fact, he even had a great line tonight when Renee Young was interviewing John Cena backstage, and he said, he couldn't wait to get his hands on Seth Rollins, and he's like, well, Dean, do you want to say something? And he said, well, when we win our tag match tonight, Rollins is mine. And Cena was like, well, if I get my hands on him, I'm going to give him a beatdown. And then Ambrose replied with, hey, nobody takes food off of my plate, John, not even you. So I like that Ambrose is consistently asserting himself. He's not going to become a background character because all of a sudden John Cena's entered the room. So I have to say that's incredibly refreshing for this angle.
Yeah, exactly. And that's yet another reason why I wasn't going to make it a heat of the night tonight, because not only was I just going to say that it kind of carries over from last week, but it's not just the problem that carries over from last week. It's also the solution that carries over from last week, because the original problem is John Cena gets inserted into every hot angle. The solution is Dean Ambrose is handling it like a freaking pro. I love the way Ambrose has been handling it, and I think that you pretty much expressed my sentiments on the matter. So if you want to move on, we can.
Yeah, I just want to express one other nitpick in the same vein, because it is the set. I was telling Ashton, it did make me a little uncomfortable that there were no announced matches for Hell in a Cell in week 2 of what's to be like a 5-week build. And me and Ashton usually anticipate this around this time of year whenever a pay-per-view, and it usually does seem to be Hell in a Cell, ironically enough, that has the 5 weeks, to give. And usually I'm okay with them wasting one, but here 2 weeks now. So now they're only left with like 3 weeks left. So I'm sure the matches may even start coming out this Friday. But yeah, that was just a minor nitpick. And I'm guessing, Ashton, you don't have anything you want to address whatsoever?
I have one heat of the night. And
okay.
Actually, you know what? I can't even have a heat of the night because it's a Divas thing. So I'm just going to call it a nitpick.
Okay, yeah. What's your nitpick for tonight?
The oversaturation of Total Divas content on Raw.
Yeah, I noticed.
We had 3 Divas matches tonight.
Yeah.
One of which actually made sense. The other 2 were just freaking, basically just content fodder for Total Divas. It was one involving Natalya, Summer Rae, and Tyson Kidd. And that, to me, the only good thing to come out of that is that we might actually be getting heel Tyson Kidd on television. And then we had freaking Brie Bella versus Eva Marie, and I don't even remember who her partner was. Oh, Cameron. Well, that's why I didn't remember. She's irrelevant. But still, it's a problem. And it all kind of comes back to the idea of how much of Total Divas kayfabe are you going to embrace in WWE Raw kayfabe?
Right, and we've had this discussion so many times, Ashton, and the only reason we keep having this discussion
is because they're so inconsistent about it.
They're so inconsistent about it, and they refuse to give us a straight answer and stick with it, which is why we keep returning to the point of conversing about it. So I completely agree. I was shocked that we got 3 women's matches on tonight's Raw. I
have another question, John.
Yeah.
And this just piles on to one of the 3 Divas segments, one of the 2 really specifically that I had a problem with. Have you ever seen Nikki Bella do the "you can't see me" hand motion?
No, I have not.
Then why is Brie Bella doing yes chants?
Maybe because they want to keep Daniel Bryan on everybody's minds, and she's a babyface, and they want to kind of use his overness to kind of transfer it over to her.
Okay, maybe the more important underlying question here should be, why is Daniel Bryan's taunt allowed to be used by everybody else? For God's sakes, the Big Show used it last year. Del Rio started using it last year, and he continued using it until he got fired as C instead of yes. Brie Bella is now using it. Why is Daniel Bryan's material up for grabs for everybody just because he's not on the current product? And more importantly, even when he was on the product, everyone else was already using it. So that's not even a valid answer.
Yeah, I guess so. I don't know then. I really don't. Daniel Bryan's always been a weird case with how he's gotten over and people kind of leeching off of the magic he was able to make happen. I really don't know. Maybe he doesn't have the same kind of pull backstage that other talents use, and that's why he consistently gets screwed over in that regard with his, I guess intellectual property would be the right word, but I guess with just, what he's come up with for his character. So I guess that's the best answer I could give.
All right, well, that being said, that is I believe my one and only heat of the night. Yeah, that's my one and only heat of the night. Everything else was at least above average to average, at least acceptable, let's put it that way.
Right.
On the old school, I think it was like middle school when they used this grading thing where it was a U, A, or O, or no, U, S, or O. And it's like unsatisfactory, satisfactory, or whatever the next one is. This was like everything except for that one little nitpick that I have about the Divas is satisfactory. Or better. I think the O
there you go.
Standing.
Oh, well, then there you go. Yeah, because there were some definitely interesting moments from Night Raw involving a variety of performers that I'm excited to talk about. So with that said, let us get right into our Monday Night Raw review.
Wrong.
God damn, SmackDown recap. Because nobody cares about SmackDown. I mean, I'm actually interested to see how many people actually listen to these recaps because they don't even put any effort. But I will say this much. For a 15th anniversary special, this SmackDown was actually better than most. So,
Wait.
Wait.
Before you continue, please rephrase that. You're implying that this SmackDown was good if you judge it based on other anniversary specials. If anything, that makes it worse because anniversary specials are supposed to be better than usual.
Well, I'm just saying, like, this SmackDown compared to prior SmackDowns that we've recapped was better to me.
Yeah, that's exactly
so,
what it is.
Yeah, there you go. Primarily, I think the two biggest things to recap here would be the Tag Team Championship match featuring the Usos and Gold Star, Rusev versus Big Show, and things that
Rusev versus Big Show practically got repeated on Raw, and even if they didn't repeat the exact segment, they showed the relevant part of the segment on Raw.
Exactly. Big Show knocking Rusev out. It was a DQ loss for Rusev. His second one, apparently only to Roman Reigns, who also handed him a DQ loss. Still hasn't been pinned or submitted. And I just read that apparently they're going to have a rematch next week on Raw anyway. So that's already what we're looking forward to for next Raw is Big Show versus Rusev again. So there was that. Usos versus Gold Star I thought was an enjoyable tag team title bout. But, the Usos were closing in on becoming two-time champions, and Goldust got the DQ finish for Gold Star, so they used the champion's advantage to get away. Still enjoyable, but honestly, if the Usos get another shot at Hell in a Cell, I would not be surprised to see them take it and have Gold Star have a very brief reign, but that's just me. Maybe they'll go a little bit longer with it than I'm giving them credit for. Do you have anything you want to say about that?
Not really, no.
There you go. We had a battle royal that I was very entertained by, mainly because we saw the, I think they call themselves the Super Athletic Friends now. If they're going to be a babyface group, I have no idea what's going on with Big E, Kofi, and Xavier Woods anymore. But all three of them were in the battle royal, and they were kind of working together in parts. And Cesaro got some great eliminations, particularly towards the end when it came down to him, Kofi Kingston, and Jack Swagger. Swagger was kind of caught in between the ropes. And Cesaro military pressed Kingston over his head, and he threw Kingston onto Swagger, eliminating them both. So Cesaro earned an Intercontinental Championship match. So Cesaro's just that guy challenging for all the mid-card titles now. And yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed his match with Ziggler. I thought it was great back and forth. I think these guys could have some phenomenal one-on-one matches if they can have a little series, a little rivalry, over the Intercontinental Championship. Had an unclean finish because Dolph got the sunset flip, but Cesaro had the ropes. The referee didn't see them, and he counted 3 for Dolph, so Dolph retained. So yeah, the Battle Royal Tag Title match and the Intercontinental match, 3 great contests, and I even enjoyed Big Show Rusev. I thought it was a good big man match. So yeah, I enjoyed this SmackDown. Anything you want to say, Ashton?
Not really. I mean, this SmackDown wasn't anything spectacular. I think that if you would kind of keep it in the back of your mind that it was meant to be an anniversary special on top of what we got, it was just really disappointing. But if you just look at it as another SmackDown, it was all right.
There you go.